When I was 3.5, I noticed he'd be playing in the family room, and then he would be in the middle of like a little make-believe game, with his little soldiers or whatever, and he would stop, and his eyes would kind of glaze over, his mouth would move, but he wouldn't be saying anything.
He would kind of rock back and forth and make this sound from the back of his throat. He was spacing out, basically.
You could go up in front of him and wave your hand at him, and he was not really responding. And it was almost like he was having a conversation with himself.
I was the one who probably saw most of these episodes. I'd tell the doctors they never witnessed anything. And I remember my sister-in-law Marjorie saying,
"Why don't you videotape it? This way you have it documented what's going on and let the doctors look at it."
A week later, the whole family was driving in the car, and Lisa was ready.
All of a sudden, I hear this clicking noise in the back seat. So I thought, this is my chance. I turned around and I started filming Eamon from the back seat.
He was looking out the window, and his mouth was moving, and his eyes had a kind of a vacant look.
And I'm talking to him, calling his name, and I actually had to reach over and pat his knee. And then all of a sudden, he snaps to, he kind of looks in my direction, and then he gives this big smile for the camera.
I watched the tape, and it was distressing. That was the first time I had really seen it, and shook me up.
Eamon Murphy was an adorable 3-year-old with a loving family. But despite all the attention, Eamon was in a downward spiral. At 1, he had problems eating. At 2, he wasn't talking. And now he's having trance-like episodes that no one can explain.
These things are getting worse and worse. I'm kind of at my wit's end. This is it. I really need to find out what's going on with them.
Armed with a videotape of Eamon's episodes, Lisa visited a pediatric neurologist.
He was looking at the tapes and looking at his records, and he felt that Eamon may have some type of seizure disorder.
We ran a few tests, and he said, I think, they're partial complex seizures, and I think that we should put him on some anti-seizure medication.
But many seizure medications are powerful drugs with serious side effects.
And I thought, should I be giving him this medication? I mean, this would have been like the easy way out. Just start him on the medication and see what happens and hope for the best. But I just didn't feel good about it.
She just had a gut feeling that, we're not going to medicate Eamon until we really know what's causing these seizures.
After 4 years of searching, Lisa still didn't feel any closer to the truth, but she kept on looking for clues.
I read this article on parents putting their children on gluten-free and casein-free diets.
This rang a bell. Lisa herself was on a gluten-free diet because she had been diagnosed with something called celiac disease.
Basically, it's the inability to digest gluten. Gluten is a protein that's found in wheat, rye, barley, and oats.
She was addicted to pretzels and cornflakes, and she would eat them all the time. But she was getting really, really thin, and she was getting really sick.
When I was diagnosed with celiac disease, that was the first question to my doctor. I said, what about my children? And I remember my doctor just kind of laughing and saying, oh, forget it. Celiac disease is so rare. Your kids, and even if your kids do get it, you'll know immediately because they'll have the exact same GI symptoms that you've experienced.
Eamon had none of the digestion problems that Lisa suffered from, so the idea that they might share the same disease seemed far-fetched. But then Lisa learned some shocking news.
I attended a Westchester Celiac Support Group meeting. Dr. Peter Green was going to be speaking, and I was very, very interested in what he had to say on celiac disease.
Physicians in this country, at least, are taught that celiac disease is a rare condition. It's actually very common. It occurs in about 1% of the population, and it actually occurs in families.
Peter Green kept stressing how important it was to have all first-degree relatives tested. I remember just freezing in my seat thinking, it's genetic?
Yeah, of course it's genetic.
Desperate for answers, Lisa approached Dr. Green and asked him what she should do.
She was totally unaware that there could be an impact of this on her family. We were running a family screening study looking at at-risk individuals.
I was immediately of the opinion, when can we do it? Let's do it now.
So we drew blood on Lisa's children as part of this study.
In celiac disease, gluten destroys the tiny finger-like protrusions in the small intestine, called villi, that help the body absorb nutrients. Sufferers usually experience stomach aches and other GI symptoms, not the strange trances that have been plaguing Eamon. Still, Lisa began to wonder, could malnutrition be at the root of Eamon's problems?
Celiac, I think
I'm kind of on pins and needles because I just don't really know what's in store for me and what's going to happen.
3 weeks after their meeting, Dr. Green completed the first set of tests.
Eamon's results were very high, indicating that it was virtually 100% chance that he had celiac disease.
An endoscopy confirmed the diagnosis.
I know that's right.
God, this is over with. It's done. This is it. We finally solved the mystery.
Looking back, Lisa was horrified by the cost of her ignorance.
You know, as a mom, you want to give your kids the best nutritional foods available. And I remember giving Eamon whole grains and cereals, and it's just, in essence, I was actually poisoning Eamon. I was giving him poison.
You didn't know.
After the diagnosis, Lisa quickly placed Eamon on a diet free of wheat and all other gluten-filled foods. It was a huge life change, but the results were striking.
It's getting harder and harder in this day and age to take wheat out of what you eat because they tend to put it in many things. But it's a condition that you actually don't need to take any medication for and has the potential to totally reverse with changing your diet.
They may have gluten.
After Eamon went on a gluten-free diet, the seizures stopped almost immediately.
He just came to life.
Anyway, about the gluten. So you can get gluten-free foods like pastas and breads, but they're more expensive. Say that wheat bread is $3.99, and then you get gluten-free wheat bread, which is like $6.99. And I actually am allergic to a lot of foods. Red dye, blue dye, shellfish. I am lactose intolerant, but luckily that only gives me gas. And with breads, I just get occasional itching and gut pain, as I said. So I could eat bread and then I'll be fine. And then another time I eat bread, I'll have itching and gut pain. So the question is, what do I mostly eat? Meat. I mean, like chicken and stuff like that. Anyway, as I said, with traveling, what do you do if you have a lot of food allergies? And most of what you get in traveling is sandwiches, which is bread. Anyway, I'll leave the video here.